Have you ever felt like you're meant for something bigger, but the journey to find it feels overwhelming? Imagine stepping into a world completely unknown, where every turn hides a mystery, and even a simple decision could change your life forever. This is the story of Jane, a quiet dreamer from Kenya, whose leap of faith takes her halfway across the globe and into the heart of an extraordinary secret. Get ready for the owl's whisper. Jane had always dreamed of studying abroad. Growing up in Kenya, she spent hours reading travel blogs and watching videos of people exploring different countries. She imagined herself walking through foreign cities, meeting new people, and experiencing a world far beyond Nairobi. But as exciting as the dream was, it also scared her. Jane was an introvert who loved quiet and familiar things. Moving to India for her postgraduate studies was the boldest decision she had ever made, and it felt like the scariest one too. When she arrived in New Delhi, everything was overwhelming. The streets were packed with people. The sounds of honking cars filled the air, and the fast pace of life left her feeling out of place. Even though she had spent weeks preparing for the move, learning about Indian customs, picking up basic Hindi phrases, and planning her journey, nothing could prepare her for how lost she felt in this bustling city. Her classes gave her some structure, but even there, she felt small. The other students seemed so confident and smart. Jane often hesitated to speak up in class, worried her Kenyan accent or ideas might make her stand out. After school, she would retreat to her tiny apartment, video call her family back home, and wish for a moment of peace. Still, there were moments when the city's charm would shine through. She loved seeing the ancient temples standing proudly next to modern skyscrapers or walking past colorful markets that buzzed with life. Jane knew the city had stories waiting to be discovered, if only she could find the courage to explore. One Friday afternoon, after a long and exhausting day, Jane's patience was at its limit. A group project hadn't gone well, and she felt like her ideas were ignored. On her way home, she missed her metro train by just a few seconds. Standing on the crowded platform, frustration bubbled inside her. Without thinking, she turned away from the metro station and jumped onto the first bus she saw. She didn't even check where it was going. She just needed to escape. As the bus drove through the city, Jane stared out of the window. Slowly, the noise and chaos of central Delhi faded. The busy streets turned into quiet neighborhoods lined with trees. Colorful murals decorated the walls, and everything felt calmer. Jane's frustration began to melt away. The bus finally stopped in a neighborhood she didn't recognize. Lakshminagar. Curious, she stepped off and found herself in front of a lively market. Stalls were packed with handmade jewelry, bright fabrics, and sizzling street food. The air was filled with the smell of spices and frying samosas. Jane walked through the market, soaking in the colors and sounds. For the first time in weeks, she felt a spark of excitement. At the far edge of the market, she noticed a strange little stall tucked away in the shadows. It was quieter than the others, almost hidden. Behind the counter sat an elderly man with sharp, piercing eyes that seemed to study her every move. "You've traveled far to be here," the man said, his voice deep and calm. Jane stopped in her tracks. "How do you know that?" The man smiled faintly. "I can see it in your eyes." Without another word, the man reached under his counter and pulled out a small wooden owl. It was beautifully carved, with detailed feathers and eyes that looked almost alive. "This is for you," the man said, holding it out. Jane frowned. "Why me?" "Some things don't need a reason," the man replied. "Trade me your watch. Time for wisdom." Jane hesitated, touching the simple black watch on her wrist. It was a gift from her parents, something she wore every day to feel connected to home. The man's gaze softened. "You can always keep track of time, but wisdom finds you when you least expect it." After a moment of silence, Jane unclasped her watch and handed it over. The man smiled and placed the owl in her hand. The wood felt strangely warm, as if it were alive. "Follow where it leads," the man whispered. Before Jane could ask what he meant, a crowd of people passed between them. When the path cleared, the stall was gone. Jane's heart raced as she stared at the empty space. The owl in her hand seemed to hum softly. A cool breeze swept past her, carrying a faint whisper. This is only the beginning. Back at her apartment, the owl sat on her desk, watching her with its lifelike eyes. At night, when the city grew quiet, Jane thought she heard faint whispers, like the owl was trying to speak to her. A few days later, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Follow the light of the owl. It will guide you. Jane froze. Her heart pounded as she looked around her apartment. Was someone watching her, or was this just her imagination? When she looked back at the owl, its eyes glowed faintly, as if it were alive. Jane's reflection in its polished surface flickered, and for a moment, she didn't recognize the face staring back at her. "What have I gotten myself into?" she whispered, clutching the owl tightly. But what is the true purpose of the wooden owl? Who sent the cryptic message? And why is Jane the one chosen to follow its path? The owl holds secrets Jane can't yet understand. Who sent it? Why her? And where will it lead her next? As the whispers grow louder and the shadows around her deepen, Jane's journey is only just beginning. Stay tuned for the next chapter of The Owl's Whisper. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because what happens next will leave you questioning everything that you see or know.